What does it mean to practice art? We have all heard the common phrase that practice makes perfect. In fact, talking about practice is so common when it comes to art that many different iterations of that phrase have come up over the years. Practice makes perfect, practice makes proficient, practice makes better, practice simply solidifies habits, and it goes on and on. But what we don't talk about or hear very frequently is, what is practice? For the sake of today's discussion, I want to define it as this. Practice is the continued honing of a skill, working toward greater proficiency by focusing on improving areas of weakness and continually improving areas of strength. Great! But what does this look like? What does this mean? So if you want to improve at drawing figures, you practice figure drawing. But what does that mean in isolation? Because figure drawing is a singular category of the wider art world, and there are so many facets to that singular thing. So let's take a look at what this might look like for you. So if your desire is to work on practicing figure drawing and you just apply that logic, you just draw figures, and you practice what you think of and you conceptualize as figure drawing, this might not work out very well for you. And as I mentioned before, this primarily comes from the fact that figure drawing is a massive thing. There are so many components that if you focus on all of them simultaneously, you might not get very far, or it might just take a very long time for you to get anywhere. Let's say that you play D&D or Pathfinder, you do board games with your friends, or you're writing a book or a comic of some sort, and you want to illustrate the characters in that environment or in that campaign. Is practicing figure drawing really going to be the best way to start that? No, because there are so many parts of the body that are just not going to be important to you as you go about executing those figures. You're going to want to focus on expressions. You're going to want to focus on what makes those characters individual. Okay, well now we've honed that in a little bit. So if your goal is to practice drawing figures, people, portraits, in order to make those characters for your campaign or your setting, you've now isolated that really what you're going to focus on is the individual facial expressions, the portraits and the faces. Well, that makes your task a lot simpler because now you can go and you can find examples of those kinds of drawings, examples of those kinds of paintings, or just a lot of photographs of people's faces. And you can start working from those things. If you are working on this for characters, then there is a character design aspect here as well, which is separate from the other, so you could choose which one that you want to focus on first. If you decide to go with the character design route first, I would look up some artists, find some people who do character design in a way that you really enjoy. Take a look at how they work, what their process is, copy some of their work, but as you copy it, try to figure out why they're making the decisions that they're making. Do they make the eyes larger? Do they make the eyes really akin to what they would be on a normal human portrait? Are features exaggerated? The giant Disney chins, the hook noses, all kinds of things. Look at those decisions that the artists are making, and when you're copying, take note of those. After you've copied several artists in this way, try to execute your own version, taking bits and pieces from each of those artists that you fell in love with. This is really where the practice starts. You are starting to iterate on ideas that you've accumulated from your time copying other artists. If the term copying makes you feel a little icky inside, just think of it as you are pulling resources. And frankly, no artist can ever get by without copying something. You're either copying reality, you're copying something from your mind, which is a copy of reality, or you're copying another artist. So just try to dismiss that. There's nothing wrong with copying. There's just something wrong with plagiarizing and copying somebody's thing and trying to sell it as if it was your own. So no, practice does not make perfect, but practice helps you iron out your ideas and iron out your skills, leveling those things up slowly over time. And it will inevitably make you better. In fact, practice where you focus on everything will make you better. It'll just make you better so incrementally that it's non-perceptible. And for the emotional struggles that come from working in art, if you're able to give yourself the win of small successes, you're probably likely to stick to it for a lot longer. As always, thanks for your time. If you liked the video, please consider subscribing. Have a good one, y'all. See you soon.